Right, this is going to be another episode of Thorin's Big Brains. And as people will know, what I like to do with this show, since I do all my other shows, is I like to make it either something like preview for an event, or we've actually done quite a few LPL episodes because sadly, it's still the league that just people care about the least for whatever. So I've obviously got Jensen Goh here, who's been on a bunch of past episodes. He's been a coach and a positional coach and all sorts of things in a bunch of different teams. You can check out his Twitter for the rest of it. He also did write a book, which I've already told the story of. You have to actually contact him, but if you do, it does have some interesting stuff in it. It's a bit of his story as a coach and his like philosophy on how to coach people, basically. We've got Dom here, obviously, who actually does the core streams of the LPL. Right, let's just start there, Dom. I want to actually know your take on that. Because what's weird is, I actually feel like at this point in time, there's just nothing can make people watch the LPL. Like, they were watching those MSI matches going, this is a banger, JDG. And then they're watching all those BLG games. Oh my God, they're beating the Koreans. That you're core streaming it even. People who follow your stream. Like, they've won MSI, all of them, for ages. They won Worlds. Like, at this point, like, even if LS became like a biggest fan ever of the LPL, there's just nothing left, is there? Is there anything left that would actually make people watch it? Like, I can't see what angle there is that we can ever get them in on. It's already a banger league to watch.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's so weird is the entertainment product is so good because when you watch the games, there's like even the middle of the pack teams, you just have absolute fucking bangers. I mean, you watch all the ones that we have right before we go into our talk show. So it's one of those things where I feel like people just hate the idea of China in the West. They're just like, oh my, like it's Chinese League of Legends. Like it's China. China is bad. And then they just don't want to watch it based off that premise alone. Because when you look at LPL, they put out, Reddit threads, they interact with the community, they have Twitter accounts, they have a community Discord. Yep. They're always trying to bring people in. They pretty much open up co-streaming to everyone who wants it. Like the LPL is the easiest platform, the easiest competition to get co-streaming rights to. If you just ask for it, you'll get it. I've put through so many different people like Midbeast. I put in Catapult.
Oh, right. They're not all officially approved. You just ask essentially. You request.
I literally just talk to my guy. I talk to my connection, and they just do it. And yeah, I mean the competition, obviously, if you look in the recent history of League of Legends, 4 out of the 5 international tournaments have been won by LPL teams. It's just one of those things where I feel like people just, it's not in their routine, and it's hard to get something new into their routine, because if they're going to watch League of Legends during that time block, they're just going to watch the LCK because they have all the big names. Maybe if like some of the really core LCK names went to LPL, maybe that would be an angle. But outside of that, I just feel like this is what the league is going to be in the West.
By the way, I actually do like Midbeast. I've even done an episode way back in the day, Narrative Wake, with him, even though I will say, I think he finessed his way into that one. Because I thought, since he had all those videos of Apto and Rookie and stuff on his channel, we did one that was like all the like Western mid laners. I noticed when it got to certain names, to be fair, you have to have like an 8-year like memory at that point in time. There were certain names though, he did already sort of just go, what do you think though? Like, as the immediate come back to the question, which just means like, I'm just going to like bluff this one. Yeah, me too. But anyway, the other thing about him that I do appreciate, because this is the YouTube game with the algo, is he either would do a million videos about Apto, who obviously doesn't even play anymore, which is his problem, but then he's just filled that hole with niche content. Like, if you notice, like he does either high level stuff in his own like play, like Diamond or whatever, or he just does like a million videos about niche. Yeah. And it's all the same joke, but I can't lie. It's like a Limp Bizkit song. If you like Limp Bizkit, you just go like all the songs. It's the same shit every time. But yeah, if you like it, you like it.
His niche videos are so quality because the way he approaches them, like you can tell that he's obviously making fun of niche.
Oh, he's so cynical.
He's obviously making fun of niche. But the way that he goes about it, he's like, all right, 700 games deep. Can Nice, the challenger coach, escape Platinum 2 today? And then he'll like pick the worst game possible where Nice is just like 0-9. He'll be like, ooh, another death for Nice. I wonder how he's going to come back into this game. 0-9. The total gold score is 11k to 37k. This might be a tough one to win for Nice. And then the video will end. It'll be like, well, that was a tough game for Nice, but I still believe in him. I think that he can get it. It just needs some time to work it out. And trust me, I've played Korean solo queue, and Plat is really ELO hell once he gets above it. Like, it's just this whole angle where he's being nice to Nice, but the whole thing is just him.
That actually makes it better trash talk though. You know what I mean? Because I actually agree. The fact that he'll even be like, maybe we have been a bit too harsh, but like, he's set him up for the failure, isn't it? Like, he just set him up to look shit. It's funny.
Yeah, no, it's so good. And then like Doublelift watches that video and he's like, wow, he really does believe in Nice. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, wow. You know what? He'd probably be DMing him Midbeast. I'd give up on that nice guy. I don't think he's going to make it in the challenge, mate. You know.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're doing a lot of content about that. You know, he's losing a lot of these games. You know, bro. What you put them on your channel for? Meanwhile, all the comments like, "Lol, amazing shit's okay." Right, Jensen. I thought for this episode, especially with that setup, right, as usual, I was saying this to you before we went live. Like, it's the way I'm such a mark. I am like Lucy with the football and Charlie Brown. I'm Charlie Brown in this equation, obviously, where every split it starts right, and because I've just come off MSI or I've come off the playoffs of the last split, and it's like I always think like, right, let's get to the next great matches, let's get the bangers in there. Oh, what's that? EDG's playing Weibo. Oh yeah, can't wait for this. And then every single time, like Charlie Brown running up to kick the football, in the first 2 to 3 weeks of the LPL, they just always take the football away, don't they? And you go, what the? Oh, it's just, they're not even trying. It's just all nonsense at the beginning again, isn't it? These games don't make any sense. These aren't the top teams. So what we're mainly going to do, I feel like, on this episode is it's probably going to be more like, you could always consider it a preview for the split, because the split doesn't feel like it's properly started, and you've got all these shenanigans with the rosters. So one team I want to start out with is the team that has started the split so badly and then has this whole drama of like, are they getting Uzi high? Is their fucking ADC? It's obviously EDG. If people don't know, this was the team last split before the playoffs that, like, some people had them like going to MSI as one of the two teams. People were saying they had the best macro. They're supposed to be like the Korean style LPL team. What do you think of EDG for this split? And then if you want, we can tease into the Uzi, the Leave angle. But just what do you think of this team? Like, what are your expectations for this split?
I wasn't very high on EDG even in spring, and I thought that this is a team that they made up for a lot of their weaknesses with very intelligent drafting and just very, very practical approaches towards the game, right? So, like I always say, during the regular season, if you play more towards the skilling components of things, this is a team that would tend to do better in general. I think the EDG in spring, I had them highlighted for Drake setups, but this is one of the teams that very clearly understands that when you have the range advantage, how do you control the line bush to control the river, and then zone the opponents up from the mid wave to then secure the Drake for yourself. That was the big breadwinner for them in spring. I think in summer, over time, people are naturally going to catch up to that, and there's two big liabilities on the team at the moment. Leave is the one that's currently being heavily scapegoated, but I think that Ale is definitely one of the things that people don't scrutinize enough. I think that he's playing lane under par quite often, and he's I mean, Ale and Ben have always been the two coin flip top laners for some time now. I mean, 369 used to be known as 369, but it's kind of ironic that he's the one who's the most stable now. But it's Ale and Ben who are the really coin flippy ones. It's just that with Ale recently, he has been flipping tails a lot. He has really been underperforming. I think that this is a big exploitation point against EDG at the moment. And of course, with Leaf and the bot lane, there might be some changes. I think it's very likely that there are going to be changes over there, but he has not been playing to the same standard that he was in spring, where he's going there finding these sick out plays. I just want to talk a little bit about AD carries in the LPL, right? Because there are these AD carries that one of the things that I've observed is that the way that these AD carries use their flash is actually very telling as to what is their general mindset. And Leaf tends to be this AD carry who tries to use his flash forward more often than not. And the opposite of this example would be somebody like Elk, right? Where more often than not you see Elk use his flash very defensively. You see AD carries like Jackie Love, Gala, and Leaf, especially in the affiliates, they would try to use the flashes very offensively. And if they're getting dove and stuff like that, they try to trade 1-for-1. So when they're trying to play this double agency mid jungle style and the top laner and Ali's underperforming, and Fofo's not on a true carry. I mean, the closest that they ever got was when Fofo was playing the likes of Cassante, right? But you put Fofo on the likes of Annie, you put Fofo on the likes of Nico, and then Leaf is flashing forward. He's trying to trade 1-for-1. All of a sudden, the team can't really cross the finish line and win those team fights.
What do you think of EDG, Dom?
Well, I mean, to start, I think that their games, I mean, versus BLG and Top Esports, I mean, those are two hard teams in the LPL. I mean, TS is a team that obviously finished, 7th because they played against the best team in the world, OMG, and LPL playoffs. What can you do about that? It's just unfortunate when you run into the God Kings of the LPL. But like Top Esports is a solid team. They lost to BLG, who looks so much better than they looked before in LPL. It seems like the MSI run for them, it just made them so much more solid as a team. They don't make these massive mistakes that they would always make before. And EDG, I would say that outside of just like Drake setups and stuff, they're just the macro team. Like they are the team that has the best, like one of the best shot callers in LPL. You can just see that it's a Mako team. Like he is so good at putting them in positions, and you can tell when they get in like those Baron situations or those mid-game situations where one person has to back, one person has to recall, they get like a vision set up. They're one of the best teams at making the decision as to like, when do we start Baron? Are we actually going to like sit on our vision, look for a pick? They just understand the game really well there. So I would just say in general, that's probably their biggest strength. And then when it comes to the Ale point, I just think it's not an Ale meta. I think Ale is very meta specific. He is, he's just like Bin. You want a Jax, Camille, Fiora meta for Ale. And right now, those champions aren't that good. People are just playing tanks top, and they're able to just get through the lane. The game is like ending on 2 items on a soul fight for top laners. So unless they really just buy into that style and they essentially have Ale just play all of his carry champions, I don't think he's going to look that effective until we see a meta change, tank nerfs, something like that.
Yeah, for me, I would just say, go on. Jump in, John.
Just more on the Ali point, because I was just thinking about the Jax game that he played. I think he was playing Jax against Cassante, and then he was... I remember his bot lane was winning that matchup, and he in the top side of the map, he was playing lane under par, and he was dying solo to the opponent Cassante. Was that against... I think that was against TES, right? He soloed like to Wayward?
I think that was Wayward, yeah.
Yeah, so this is where I get the impression where even on his carry champions right now, you can say it is a little bit of a meta thing, where it's harder to play Jax into these tanks, but even when they put him on it, he's not... You're playing the carry, and then you're dying solo. You're making the game hard for your team. When Jax should have been a very important part of win condition to be able to create the push on the side lane to get those macro advantages that they had. So, is why I think that even if it's whether it's his meta or not, his current performance at the moment is going to be a huge liability for them. And I'm going to be concerned with for EDG, even taking all the Leaf drama aside as well.
Yeah, I would just say the thing about the EDG lineup that in general I'm just always been so impressed by is what a great job of GMing they did and then getting back together the coaching duo. If people don't know, Kenji was the guy who went to RNG, won the MSI with them, came back, but this is the same one along with Maokai. They were the duo that were in EDG when they won Worlds. So if you think about it, right, on paper, the two players, if you looked at the EDG lineup, that's the classic one that won Worlds, the two players you can never replace is obviously Scout and Viper. Like, they're just too good. And yeah, they didn't replace them, but they did about as good as you could. Better man, they didn't break the bank, and they weren't going and signing the rulers of the world. Like, they actually did a great job making a competent lineup. That's like a solid 5 players again. And like you say, like, the coaching staff clearly knows what they're doing on this team. Like, this looks like a well-coached squad. The thing for me is, though, on the Ale point, Ale is also in the bin category, Jensen, because he's the one where if you've only seen them internationally, you always going to overrate the fuck out of these players. Like, people did the same thing when he was with, fucking LNG at Worlds or whatever. Like, people, they only saw the odd game because you only do the BO1s there. And if they see the pop-off, they're like, this guy's insane. It's like, they are on the games that they go insane, but like, everyone who's seen Bin's career knows he'll also feed like a motherfucker too. Like, he's absolutely shameless. So to me, that's just the nature of who he is as a player. Let's talk about like the Leave angle though, right? Obviously, everyone's hyped on this angle of like maybe Uzi comes back. And to be fair, Uzi was the player that used to literally take part of the spring split off, if not the spring split. He actually was the real double if. Double if you just say it and then not really take the split off. Right? So everyone does assume if any player could get back to the top, it would be him, right?
Double if doesn't want to take any splits off anymore.
Not anymore, no.
He won't even take weeks off at this point. Like, exactly. He is just committed. That's what I respect about him. Honestly.
But obviously, the main thing here to me is, I don't think this would even be happening if it wasn't for this drama around the Leave guy. So Jensen, just give me some initial thoughts, right? One thing I think is very misunderstood in the West is, and I'm going to have my own thoughts on this as well, and some things I know about Korea and China, but I wanted to just ask in terms of like culturally, what would you say? Why is this a famous, consistent thing that every couple of years plagues one or two LPL players? Could be Name back in the day. There was, funny enough, it's all fucking ADCs apparently. Hualfeng, the guy from Suning, they've all had the same story where it's like, in their cases, it was often fangirls, is what it was termed as, they're being a bit too like promiscuous or whatever. Or, as far as I can tell, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't the main issue here? It's not the idea that they're like sleeping with people or being, it's the idea that because it becomes public, you've sort of like shamed the organs somewhere, or you've like made a fool of yourself. Is it something along these lines, like some Confucian angle?
I definitely say that there's an element of that, right? So we talk about face, or we talk about there's this sense of like the term for it is face. I'm not sure if that's the best translation of it.
Yeah,
but there's
like honor or something, right?
Reputation, right? There's an inherent reputation that you need to uphold for the team and for yourself. And because it's a more collectivist culture, if somebody within your community does something, it is then seen as shameful. to a certain extent. So confusion cultures, they tend to be very shame cultures in general. When it comes to these style things, it definitely impacts things in a way, and that there is the element of like, okay, has this person brought disrepute to the organization? Has this person brought disrepute to the fans? And I think that this is something that's been discussed before. That a lot of these fans also, they vicariously extend and project themselves upon the players and the teams. So
they have like the K-pop vibe, right, where they're super stands and stuff.
Yeah, so when something like that happens, it definitely does take a hit to the reputation and the overall and put some shame onto EDG. But I don't really think that that's the big thing over here, because when it comes to scandals like that, I think that usually applies more to the corporate world, where you have a lot of the older folks like sitting around and stuff like that. But at the esports level, I think it's just more drama for the drama machine. It's gonna go and it's gonna come out, and once Uzi starts playing, if they start winning, people are gonna forget about who this Leave guy was. It's gonna be a little footnote that, oh, do you know that EDG had this player, he played for one split, and then he got into trouble for doing these style things as well. I mean, with the whole thing and all the leaks and things like that happening as well, you actually have to wonder how much of this is also
this might also be the smoke screen if you wanted to replace him anyway with Uzi. Is that also an angle you're thinking of?
Yeah, so that might be something that's happening, right? Because when we talk about players behaving in promiscuous manners and going around and I mean, I've known, I don't know.
There's loads of stories behind the scenes, aren't there? They just don't come out sometimes.
Yes, but you know the stories. There are players, there are staff out there who are generally more promiscuous in general, and it just takes like. It's just that this person he got caught. You know, I wouldn't even say he got caught. It's just that it became public information that this person has been going around and liking girls' photos and engaging in these activities as well.
By the way, just as an aside, I do just love the angle I hadn't even thought of that angle. That this could be some like pure House of Cards like shit of like, wait a minute, the phone call's coming from inside the house. It's just like someone like release the photos and the videotape. Like that is actually gangster if that's the way you replace the player. But the other angle I was going to say was this, right? And I'll be very careful how I phrase this, because particularly I don't want to get Jensen into trouble. I hope he has a long career and life and potentially coaches, who knows, maybe the LPL one day. I'll just phrase it like this. And if it was on Something Insight, I'd go a lot harder. So I'll phrase it very carefully. If, let's say, there was someone in a culture like China, I know particularly in Korea, this has happened before. I'm going to be really careful how I phrase this. Basically, I've heard there are players, and sometimes even coaching staff's involved in this. That's why I'll just say occasionally, sometimes. And it's almost like for example, in Korean StarCraft, this is even back in the day, the whole angle I was told, and I've been to Korea and I've seen this, was like that element of society, the idea of like the bathhouse or whatever, does exist and everyone knows it exists. But it's more like, no one speaks about it is the point. Like, and technically those places don't exist. Like in theory, that really is just a place you go and the person gives you a shower or something. You know, that's like the official front. Also, it's not like a thing with like, it's not like Vegas. It's not like a big arrow, like come here, like neon signs. It's more like it's a door that you have to know that place and go there and possibly even know like someone there to call it. Oh, we're going to come at this time, and you go in, and it's a whole thing basically. And so I heard of it first in Korean StarCraft, because believe it or not, I heard there were actually teams or coaches where the premise was like, their players really did just play games like 16 hours a day and then play tournaments and never have a day off. So that was essentially like their sort of like, occasionally like extracurricular activity, as it were. Like they would just take them there. That would be what happened. And then it was sort of just a not spoken about thing. So to me, it reminds me of the whole match fixing angle. It's like everyone pretends it doesn't happen. But as a result, if you get caught, they have to go hard as fuck at you, because that's to make up for the fact it's not supposed to happen. And so what I basically heard is something similar. Like, if people don't know, the Chinese version, as far as I know, is even stuff like they have those like karaoke places, which I've been to myself, and I've just gone there with my friends when we're at events, and you book the room out and you have the thing. But there would always be loads of girls there, and I'd always be like, who are they? Why is there like a massive load of girls? And someone would tell me, oh, they're people that you could just, you could just invite them to come and have a drink with you. And now, listen, if you're from West, you might immediately go, whoa, and what do they do? And it's like, no, some of them really are. They're just going to come and have a drink with you and sing the karaoke. It's actually like sort of what they do. Part of it's obviously, I assume, they probably get commission and they help sell the drinks and stuff. But as far as I can tell, obviously, imagine if one of those people then had a mindset where they wanted to engage in something else. That's essentially where, using subtlety, they could convey that message. So basically, as far as I know, it's like Jensen says, there's been stories like this, that, especially behind the scenes within the circuits. People know who does this stuff and who doesn't. And it's not everyone. There's a few people. The problem, like I say here, to me, it's more the idea that this is public now, which obviously does lead to the idea of why is it public, which is an interesting angle. So to me, it's actually not as big a scandal as it initially seems. And by the way, it isn't only Asian. division that does. Like, I'll give you a random example. I've actually had a similar thing happen in Germany in esports. They also had a thing where I'm sure on paper it's all totally legal, but there's people who were sort of like, oh yeah, that's like the place over there that you go to. Like, and the business guy just knows that. And it's sort of like one of those things where like the ones that do it know it and the others know it exists, but no one's supposed to acknowledge it exists. So it's not actually that big a deal. My bigger issue I want to ask you about, Dom, is what do you think about that idea? Because Leave was supposed to be one of like the fucking breakout players last split. Like, this is a person, maybe, I mean, there was even that comment, which now seems fortuitous, from fucking Uzi, where he basically said if you leave girls alone for 3 years, you'd be like the best player in the world. So what do you think about the idea of like him actually getting bombed out and Uzi coming in?
Well, I just don't feel like it would be intentional because Leave showed so much promise, and Uzi, the last time he was playing in LPL, it did not go well. Like that BLG stint last year, I was not impressed.
People have deleted that from their minds, haven't they? They don't even know who's in that team, mate.
Yeah, he was in BLG. Like that was the whole thing. It was him and Doggo competing for the spot, and I just wasn't very impressed with the way he played. So I just feel like when Leave had, I mean, obviously he has bad games here and there, but he's been a super fire rookie. When you when the comparison is, you know, him and Pays, and those are like the two best rookie AD carries like in the world. Those are the new talents. I just don't see like them wanting to replace him, even if he has like a bad stint. You know, he had like a couple bad games. He had a really awful Neela game for sure, but. Yeah, I think you could write that off as like just play normal AD carries again. Like maybe you're just not the Neela player. That's a different style champion than, you know, most people would normally play. So, or the more traditional AD carries would normally play. So that's kind of my take on it. I feel like this was something that they just have to replace him because of the fact that, you know, what's being rumored or something illegal. And yeah, I mean, we'll see if he ends up potentially coming back, you know, what the deal is. I mean, Uzi at this point is not even officially signed yet, so we have to see if that actually is the signing or if it's just a rumor. But I think it's pretty unfortunate because, you know, he looked really promising, and he should have just listened to Uzi.
Right. One team I want to pivot and talk to is because just like the last split, they've started off really well. It's, of course, Weibo Gaming. But if you know anything about the Shy's career, I know all about him, mate. He will not stop playing games with my heart because every time I'm a stand-on, every time he ever has a good game or even just a couple of solo kills, I just believe again. I think it's season 8 Worlds. No one can stop him. Even when he's making mistakes, I like rationalize it and cope that it's all like genius, set, you know, 16 level Jenga underwater. Like I do it all, and until he has like that game on fucking Crackass, it's just like, what are you doing actually? When I like have to step outside myself, like. Stop fucking standing for this guy. He's blowing the game again. So what do you think of Weibo, Dom? Like, should I actually believe in them? Like, I want to believe so badly.
So I think the positive is instead of having 2 massive inters on the team in Karsa and the Shy, now they only have 1 massive inter on the team in the Shy. So that's obviously a bonus. I think that their like bot side and their mid is just top tier for LPL. And I've always thought Weiwei was a good player. You know, I was a huge fan of Weiwei when he was on like V5 and BLG. He was always really solid. And he was also a pretty creative player. He was one of the players that I remember pulled out like the R-Evolve Gore Drinker Kazakhs last year. And he was like one of the first players to pull out Lilia, for example. So I've always had a high opinion of Weiwei. I think the Shy for me is just like, he just triggers me way too hard because some people that are mega inconsistent like that are like always on the verge of inting, those are like my least favorite players to play with as a jungler.
Oh, it's
like,
fun being a jungler. I knew it was going to be. I knew it was going to be this angle. Come on.
It's the anxiety of just knowing like this guy's going to int the whole fucking game. Do I have to be there right now? Is he going to int on this wave? Like shit, the other jungler could be top. Maybe I just have to go there. I probably shouldn't go there, but if the other jungler's there, he's probably going to get a free kill. Like I can tolerate that from only support players. That's the only position where I want the guy who's like a borderline inter. I could deal with like a Hylissang or like a Mickey X because support dies, it doesn't blow the game the same way. But the Shy, like he's literally bad like 85% of the time at this point. It's rare where he has a fucking good game. Like he had some good Cassante games. He was having good in our games, then he gets solo killed. There was a point where he had a run where he was like 0-29 in like 4 games or something. It's just absolutely crazy watching this guy play. So I'll just never really believe on a team I'll never believe in a team that has the Shy on it. Until I see them actually like do something in playoffs, because a lot of his teams do the same thing now where they look pretty good. Oh, they could be all right. They get into playoffs, lose first round. When was the last time the Shy won a playoff series?
It was a long time ago. He was one of the guys who entered rookie a couple of the fucking regionals, I remember.
Oh yeah, he entered rookie, which is another thing that I hold against him because rookie is one of my favorite players. So like there's just a lot that I'm holding against the Shy. But I will say him getting absolutely clapped by Shanji in playoffs, I like that. So Weibo, I mean, obviously they had the big win versus JDG, but they lost to OMG right after it, and I feel like that is just a full display of the inconsistency of that team and why I don't believe in them to be a world's team. Like maybe they could get if they get hot at the right time, maybe they could end up making it. But I wouldn't bet at this point that they're going to make worlds or anything.
I'm sure some people as trivia know the story that even in the run where they actually won fucking worlds, they actually subbed in Duke just because the Shy refused to pick correctly in the draft. So to me, that's the problem I have with that as a player, Jensen. Is like, what people said that in scrims and solo queue, it's fine, you should limit test all the time. It's like he just does it in the real games though. Like he just plays so abusively. Like even if you are the best ever, it surely doesn't work if you do every game.
I don't even give him credit for limit testing anymore, because when I watch the way that he dies and like when he gets solo killed, it's like he gets overkilled by like 1k HP. Like he'll play something so bad that he could have 6 items and 1000 HP and he still would fucking die there at like level 6. Like it's inexplicable the way that he dies in a lot of the lane phases. So I just feel like he just doesn't have the touch. He's just unaware of things that are happening, or like his plans are so like, it's almost like delusion as to how he could potentially win this fight ever that he engages in. So, I mean, I don't even give him credit for that anymore. I mean, it's just been split after split of him inting. Like, ever since he's been on Weibo, he's been inting. So that's 2 years now. And that last split in IG beforehand, that was rough. I mean, I gave him a little bit of a pass because he was visa issues. He came in the middle of the split. But he was literally worse than Nene in that split. Like, he was worse than the IG top laner that's been in and out of the lineup for years now. So, I don't know. I'm a the Shy hater. I just feel like his inconsistency is tough. And I know other people see like the Gragas play. They're like, oh, he flash eat into the wall and then missed his Q and his R. Ha, so funny. It's the Shy. And I'm like, he's terrible. Like he's inting the whole game. Like that's as bad as you could play it. Like you can't play it worse than that. So
where are you at on this, Jensen? Come on.
I mean, I'm definitely on the same page. The last time I did the Big Brain show, and I made a prediction. I thought that in February that Weibo was gonna win Worlds, but I have to tell it all the way back right now. It's like when you watch the LPL.
You realize you didn't have to admit that, right?
I know.
Like you realize that no one would have went back and called you out on that. Like there was no way that people were gonna hold you to that. Now you just outed yourself.
I like it. I know.
I mean,
he's doing a double lift.
I was a big believer. I was a big believer.
Okay.
And then, but my main issue with this team is that they have the opposite mojo of all of the other LPL teams, where a lot of these LPL teams, they go out there and then they play against the LCK teams and then they win fights against these LCK teams. The Shy and Karsa were very big reasons as to this, but this is a team where I'm looking at the way that they're setting up on the map. They're checking out the boxes. This team is macro-wise, I think they're doing all the right things, and then Karsa or the Shy, either one of them, would just randomly start a fight in mid lane or on the side lane for absolutely no reason and just end the whole game away. And that was my main issue with them in spring, and that was where I was like, I gotta get off this hype train. Some way, somehow, the communication in this team is not working out. Either people are asking people to engage on timings where they're not used to. Is Xiaohu the caller? Is it Karsa who was being the caller? Then now they've replaced Karsa, and then they brought Weiwei in, and then that has changed. But even with the jungle change, I don't really see. I still see the Shy just randomly eating team fights and the game away as well. So I'm fully off the Weibo hype train. I think that this team, in terms of mid jungle and the bot lane itself, they could steal the 4th seed and then go to Worlds, and then maybe the meta's just right for the Shy again, and you know how it is with these LPL teams, and there's still a chance at Worlds. So I'm not gonna go and make a definite statement either way, but I think that this team, in terms of sheer name value, I still think that Crisp and Like are one of the best bot lanes. I would say the second best bot lane in the LPL right now, behind Ruler, and I would say that might still be enough to carry them together with.
You put them over BLG's bot lane.
Yeah, I definitely put them over BLG's bot lane. I think Elk has been very overhyped because of the fact that they made a finals at MSI. Even in spring, I wasn't too high on Elk. Should we? I'll just talk a little bit.
Yeah, go on.
A little bit about Elk now, right? So, I just feel that Elk is like we talked about Leaf being the tower AD carry that tends to flash forward. Elk is basically he feels like the reckless of LPL. But this is a guy who will flash very defensively. In general, the way that he plays is a lot more. He's a lot better on the Zeri and the Xayah. It just happened that Jinx was super broken during MSI itself, and the Fiddles is something that he tends to struggle on a little bit more. So if the meta shifts into something like Ashe, Varus, the Fiddles, where it's AD carry that's immobile, you got to find the spacing correctly and then find the aggressive flashes for us to carry the fights. I do not think Elk is going to look as good as he is right now. Xayah and Zeri, he's definitely very comfortable on those champions, and even I know that he's played like 5 Fiddles game and he has won like 3 or 4 of them, but you look at the way he plays Affiliates and look at the way the ruler plays Affiliates, the way that
Abel plays Affiliates.
Yeah, the way that Abel's a good Affiliates player, right? Where the way that they're playing, it almost looks like a different champion that he's playing altogether. So I'm not very high on the Elk train.
What about you, Dom? Because the only angle I had as like a pure layman was it did look like essentially the way the MSI meta was and the way his team operates does set him up to look really good because it's just all on him in the team fights and they even play like that. So what do you think of it? Where does he actually stack up? Because I know with Gala back in the past, sometimes they get a bit overhyped from the MSI run.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Elk is... I think that he is more aggressive than Jensen's giving him credit for. I just think that sometimes he flashes forward and it's just like terrible. So it's just not as consistent as other AD carries when they flash forward. I think he's pretty good. It's just the team, I think, really struggled at points to play around him. And as soon as they started playing around him better, I think that's when he really started to shine. On was mega coin flip, and BLG in general just had the tendency to like see a champion and just dive way too deep on that champion and just completely abandon him before. But now I think they're getting better at that. So I'm an Elk believer. I think he's good. I think that he's probably one of the best AD carries. Like I would easily have him like top 4.
Does that mean the team themselves can actually like? Are they going to be a world's team for you, BLG?
Yeah, I think they'll like almost certainly be a world's team. I can't like see a world where they're not a world's team with the way the other teams are looking right now in LPL because LNG looks like they're still struggling to acclimate Gala in. EDG is having these issues, right? Like they're having the AD carry change and they look a little bit worse. And then like, I mean, OMG, still think BLG is just, they're kind of a better OMG, even though it hurts to say. And then the last team, I guess, would be Top Esports that I would put in that tier for World. So even if Top Esports were to eclipse them and they really get their shit together, I think that BLG just they've came together. That MSI run did so much more for them than almost any other team. I think it benefited them more than it benefited JDG, for example, because it just taught them how to like be more consistent in their approach to fighting. Where before I felt like their approach to fighting was pretty bad. They would have a lot of like early game advantages. They're really good at skirmishing and getting early leads, and then they would get into like a Herald fight and throw the whole game. They'd get into a Dragon fight and it would just be terrible. And now it feels like they're better at that. They have the vision to understand what needs to be done, what is everyone's job within the team. And the other thing about BLG is, they're a team where it's 5 players from 5 different teams playing on BLG this split. So they didn't have any carryover. Like even the teams that we were like looking at, like Gen G, for example, where it's like, oh, they've got this new bot lane at MSI. I mean, they had the same top side, right? Yes. And you look at T1, it's the same exact team. So the fact that BLG was able to like play against these teams and beat them so early, I think is a really good sign for them. They've actually came together well. And I think that they'll be relatively meta-proof, I think, because the only issue that I saw with BLG was Bin's inability to play tanks. That was the fucking meta at MSI, and he was able to make it work, and he was even playing Scion and shit and getting it done. So, yeah, I just think that they've actually got to that like top tier. I think that them and JDG are the top 2 teams in LPL. I don't think they have too many weaknesses.
Right, Jensen, the obvious, Don referenced it, the obvious team that on paper was supposed to get the big upgrade was fucking LNG, because that was the team where, like, the joke is, I know what his name is, but I used to just intentionally say the ADC for that team was so, because he doesn't deserve, he was so fucking bad in some of those games. It didn't matter how good Scout and Tarzan played, like, he could just lose any team fight, right? In theory now,
before we go forward, Jensen, do you agree on that? Because I always thought that LP was, like, fine. I thought he was okay. I didn't think he was, like, that bad.
Who was the ball lane? LPN missing, right? No, it wasn't missing.
No, LP and Hung.
Hung, right? Yeah, I'm trying to recall what my notes in LNG were from spring. I know I was a big LNG hater, even when they were like 5-0, going like 7-1 and stuff like that in spring.
They're 13
There's just too many teams in the LPL to just recall my notes on those. But I didn't have LP rated very highly. I know that he's not someone who was he wasn't losing them team fights, but he was playing lane under par in some matchups. That was my notes. That's my recollection of any notes that I might have had on him for LP. So I think that it's maybe having Gala is a little bit of an upgrade, but I wouldn't say it's the big thing that LNG needs to become a contender and go out there and win worlds. So
what
I
do
think
they
it's
need
a little
then?
bit
What
more
are they
team.
lacking? What are they lacking at the moment for you?
I don't really know because I'm just watching the way that they play, and it just looks like a mess, right? I think the way that they're coordinating mid jungle to enable bot lane isn't there. The way that they're setting up for fights, it's just I mean, it could be the whole thing like where we're just looking at the start of the season and the teams are like, whatever, we're just gonna take the fight. Let's just flip the fight, flip the Nash, and then we'll call it a day and go back and get ready for next week's matches and think about playoffs or something, you know. So I it's hard for me to really get a good read into it this early on, but from what I've seen, they just look like a mess right now, and I don't have like a one or two like quick fixes that's going to help them be big contenders.
Okay, if you didn't have him as that bad, then what held them back then? Because like to me, that scout split was fucking unbelievable, mate. Almost every game I watched, he just looked like the best player in the server. So what was keeping them down then? Why didn't they make the playoff run, for example?
Well, I mean, I think LP was probably like a fifth or sixth best AD carry in that spot, or maybe a little bit lower, maybe like seventh or eighth. So I think that he was just middle of the pack, which in a rookie split for a player in LPL when you're playing against like the best AD carries in the world, like I don't really hold it against him. And I thought Zika was all right as well. I just think that in general, the thing that held them back the most was when they got into that series versus OMG. Scout and Tarzan did not show up. Tarzan got out jungled by Aki, and that can't happen. If this team is going to win, Tarzan has to be like one of the best junglers in the world. He has to be Canyon. They have to be Canyon and Showmaker in order for this team to win. So I think that right now, LNG, the reason why they're struggling is they have to reorient the way that they view the game. It's no longer that they have this issue where, you know, their mid and jungle are good and their side lanes aren't as good. They don't have to think like that anymore. They have an AD carry that's capable of taking home team fights. Like if you get into a late game team fight versus anyone in the world, if you got Gullah and he's got items, he can carry the whole fight. So it's not about Tarzan and Scout like carrying or doing things to really just blow the game wide open. It's more about like, can you actually leverage the fact that now you have a superstar AD carry in my mind? Like that's an LPL superstar AD carry. So I think they have to now play more around their AD carry. They don't just view it as, you know, you do whatever in the team fight. We're just going to try to carry without you. They have to view it as you are our team fight. How do we enable you to actually break through? So like LP, it's not necessarily just that like he was like unable to team fight. I think that he was never the focus of team fights as well. Like I don't think the team played around him extremely well in team fights. Those times where Tarzan and Scout would just dive and it's like, okay, well, I mean, he's just alone. He's an AD carry at the end of the day. So that's why I didn't hold it against him too much. And then also like Hong feels to me like On before On got good recently. So like he's the same style of player where he's pretty coin flip. He does things that don't make sense. He'll try to really win the game for the team, but that might be, he might have massive ints while he does that. I think that's the issue with him. He hasn't got that level of precision where he's like good 80% of the time. He's like a 60-40 flip at this point to me. So, I mean, LNG, the main thing that they're going to need in order to really cross the finish line is they need Tarzan and Scout to keep that early game that they were having before where they're getting ahead, and then they have to really work on just the core fundamentals. They need to get that EDG shot calling in, you know, mid to late game where they're able to set Gala up to carry, because that was always Gala's strength. Gala was stable in lane, and then you'd get him into a team fight and he would just be completely fucking cracked. Still possible here, but I mean, they just haven't figured out how to play with somebody who's really good. And I think for a while, Tarzan hasn't played with like a superstar AD carry. You know, the game's been about him since he's been on LNG.
Yes. I mean, people have to remember he was obviously on it before Scout as well. If people don't remember, he was even at Worlds. Right, Jensen, what about if we do the pivot? The other team also, it's also another former IG member that I have to always believe in early, whether they betray me or not. It's obviously top esports with Rookie, right? In theory, finally, it should all come together now. It should actually, I don't want to say, like, there's no fucking guy from HOTS anymore that I have to pray makes it through the whole split. This time they can actually do something in the playoffs, right? This time they won't just get bounced out early. They might actually be good this time. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I have hopes up for TES. I think it was very unfortunate in Spring Split. They were going through some like changes for coaching staff. I'm not sure if Crescent, who was the guy who was always drafting for top esports, I heard this because he was having health issues and things like that, which is why he had to step down. So I'm not too sure what the new structure is going to look like. Their drafts so far have been okay. It's not the infamous, like, I have no idea what we're picking and I have no idea how we're dealing with these drafts anymore. And I think that Rookie is solid, Jackie is solid, and Wayward in the top lane. I think that he took over from Tingtian towards the end of the spring split, and this is someone who I think was very hyped going to Worlds when he had his debut split with TES before they got knocked out by Gam Esports, by the Vietnamese team, and he did choke really hard on the World stage, so a lot of people kind of undervalue him, but people forget how strong of a summer split that he had as well, although he was just spamming like Graves and Ornn at the point of time.
Oh, he had some big carry games,
yeah. Meta for Wayward as well, and I think that even if the meta shifts, he's shown a decent ability. I wouldn't say it's a very strong ability to play tanks, but he's serviceable as a top laner at the moment. And I think that just shoring that up between Jackie and Rookie, this is a team that definitely has the firepower to get across the finish line.
You believe, Dom?
It depends. It depends. The thing about Wayward is, the story is that he didn't get benched because he was bad. He got benched because he was playing too much CSGO, or maybe like it was the equivalent to CSGO. He was playing other games. Like, he was not dedicated to being a top tier pro player, and he was already really good. So he's one of those players where if he's really dedicated and he wants it, I think he has the talent to, be really strong. He just has that factor where he can just see how the fight's supposed to play out. He has that like innate ability to just see kills or play a team fight really well. He just understands League on that level. So I think that's one thing that needs to happen. JackeyLove, I think, is overhated at this point. Like, he obviously has some mega ints, and people always look to that and be like, look at how fucking bad he is. But most of the time, he's pretty good. Like, he's really good, and his lane phase, I think, especially is good. And this is just something that you have to accept. Maybe one in every, 4 big games, he's going to throw it. But those other 3 games are going to be in positions where you can win. So you just have to live with that, because he's that type of player, and he'll be able to squeeze more out of situations that other AD carries can. Like, he's much more explosive. He can take over a team fight at a degree that few other players can. Like, for example, another AD carry that I think is top tier right now that I think is pretty good is Light. I think Light is a really good AD carry, but I don't think Light, when he plays his best game, will be close to as good as JackeyLove when JackeyLove is playing his best game. So that's one thing.
Is Rookie still good enough?
I think he is. I think Rookie's insane. He's super good. Even if he has a bad game here or there, most of the time, he's so fucking consistent, and his lane phase is insane. As soon as he figures out the champions to play in a meta, if you get into a meta that's locked, that's almost the best thing for Rookie. If you get into a meta where it's we're just rotating Syndra, Orianna, and Azir over and over again, he's going to be the best fucking mid laner in the world. This guy's going to be completely cracked. So I still believe in Rookie. Tien, it's hard for me to believe in Tien. He's somebody that I always have spurts where I'm like, damn, he's one of the best in the world. He might be just the best jungler in the world. His pathing is so good. The way that he understands, he's the guy that just calculates everything about jungle. He knows how many camps he needs to do before he gets to dive timer, how to, really fuck an enemy jungle's path. If the enemy needs to path a certain way, he's the guy that will find the level 2 invade. I remember he was doing this cheese that was working really well when he was playing Poppy into Vi in summer, where Vi was really shit until you hit level 3. That was Vi's whole thing. You needed to get level 3 in the champion. Until you have Q, you're just nothing. And he would do Poppy Raptor, he would do his Raptors on Poppy, and then he would invade the enemy Grump and just beat the shit out of the enemy jungler, and he would snowball the whole game from that, because from there he would be contesting every single Raptor camp. And when he's playing his best, he's the jungler that will make it feel like you can't do anything against it. Like there's just no counterplay to, hit his level of pathing. It's like, oh, I guess he outplayed me early and he'll just run the whole game. But I think he's very meta dependent on this point. If we end up in a carry meta, I don't really believe in him. I think he could play, Poppy well. I view him similarly to Peanut in that respect. I think he's like Poppy, Wukong, Maokai, Sejuani. These are the champions I want to see. If we actually end up in like a hard Kha'Zix Rengar meta, these types of champions, I don't think he'll be close to as good. He just has very specific champions that he's good on. Lee Sin is famous, Hecarim, these types of champions as well. So it's tough. Also, the thing about Tien is the last 2 world championships, he's just not been good. He's been pretty bad at the last 2 world championships. And that was coming off
Dade Award
really
contender.
People
People don't know exactly. Dade Award, probably Dade Award, fucking 2-time champion at this point in time.
Yeah, no, it was actually Knight. Knight's the biggest choker. He just sucks.
Apparently, yeah.
That's he just doesn't have it in him. He's just not built like that.
That's what makes the LPL so sick for some of the players in the coin flippers. Like Tian won Worlds and got the MVP, then just inted fucking Doinby. Oh, Doinby was inted himself. And Knight, it's like that's so. That's like on the one hand, like you should get like a medal of freedom. On the other hand, you should be in prison. Like what the fuck's what's the equation there? Like how am I supposed to take the plus minus? And then also, well, I agree with you on the Jackie Love one. That's another player where people just think of key moments. His real problem is he inted some fucking like big LPL matches over the years in the playoffs. That's the problem. People remember that. But like, all you need to know is this. When I see on Reddit, and I've seen this a bunch of times, like it's just like a player like Tactical. It's like, first of all, how fucking dare you? Get that name out of your mouth when you, because as Dom says, Tactical was just like an all right player and then would it like a motherfucker. As Dom says, the games where Jackie Love doesn't int, it's like the Hillersang ones where like you either just are a genius or you int the whole thing. He has had some of the most insane team fight carries I've ever seen. Stuff where it's like you can't do that by accident. Like he just has a different philosophy on how you fight in the fucking game, and he is fucking cracked, like you say. And he's also cleaned it up a lot over the years. This isn't like the old IG one where he was doing that while the Shy was pushing top. Like now it actually makes sense. And then on the rookie angle, this is why. I'll have to do a video one day because the whole Rookie versus Faker thing, it only gets better for fucking Rookie if you actually watch them play. Yeah, obviously Faker's winning the championships and it sucks because Rookie gets into it and never gets to go to Worlds. Rookie now is still really good. Faker like 3 years ago accepted it's fucking time to be Xiaohu and just like play supportive shit and be on Galio every day and go to the side of the map. No, for real. Yeah, Xiaohu is actually a world-class player still. Like Faker sometimes he's just doing that. Like Faker knows he's not that good. Rookie still plays like the carry and just can be the carry. And right now, by the way, with any teammates, apparently, just any teammates.
Yeah, so this is the thing I always say out in stream. This is the joke I always make. I say the top esports had brilliant roster creation because Tian's problem is that he ints in group stage of Worlds, but he always gets to Worlds. Okay. Whereas Rookie can never get to Worlds, but when he gets to Worlds, he's a fucking monster. Okay. So Tian will be able to get Rookie to Worlds, and then Rookie will be able to carry Tian once they get to Worlds, and that's going to be why this team succeeds.
Someone get the GM of that team. There we go. He's figured it out exactly. He's like put the fucking strengths of the weak. When I used to say, Dom, you need to cover the weaknesses of your teammates. I didn't know you meant like actual narrative career arcs as well. Like, that does work. That does work. Yeah. But what about this then? Obviously, we've set it up so like main team left to talk about is Jing Dong, JD Gaming now. There's another thing. Please stop doing this. Please stop taking team names that we all say and memorize for years and then rebranding as like, no, those letters don't stand for anything. It's just TSM. It's just JD Gaming now. why have you gaslit me like on some 1984 shit? It was always JD Game. What? Excuse me, World Elite. Never heard of them. Team WE. I think you mean like I don't know why that's the thing where you rebrand like that, but whatever. We'll call them JD Gaming just to be polite.
I did a cast actually for LPL where I was casting WE, and I've always called them World Elite. It's like actually just on the cast trying to say Team WE because that's like their new name, and they're trying to actually get their name out there. So they actually got you. And I fucked it up like every time. I was like,
World Elite coming into your brain. I know exactly. Just in your brain at that point. Right, Jensen, JDG. I mean, obviously they lost games in the BO3s last split, and I would even assume they'll drop some more here. They've lost one of the early ones now. They are the best team in the world, though, right? They're gonna win the split still. There's no reason to hate on them.
I mean, it's very meta dependent, right? This is a meta that's very similar to MSI. If the meta is double enablers, high agency mid jungle, playing around AD carry, JDG is going to be the best team because they have the best AD carry in the world. I think Ruler is just that good. You see the way he plays the Xayah, he just hits people with the roots and stuff like that. I mean, I was like in a Discord call watching one of the MSI games with people, and then it's like Ruler, he landed a root on Stix, and people were flaming Stix. I said, I'm gonna give you $3 million, find me an 80 carry that doesn't get rooted by Ruler and lane, you know. And I don't think it's just possible to beat to outperform Ruler at this point of time, be in team fights or in lane at the moment, and being able to have agency in the bot lane to enable your support to get the first move, and his performances in team fights are just too good at the moment. But what could possibly derail them is a shift in meta, and something that shifts away where Ruler is not necessarily utilizing Ruler's strengths, right? And then we'll have to see if they are able to adapt. I would still put smart money on that they will be able to adapt, given how the team is constructed. But it's in its current iteration, with how the meta is at this point of time, they should definitely be the best team in the world.
Because Dom, I think no one ever really believed any of those RG teams were actually the favourite for Worlds. No one ever had them doing the Grand Slam and win all. This team could, in theory, do it, right? They could do the Grand Slam.
I mean, the thing about the RNG teams is that they would just start Summer so abysmally, and like obviously going to MSI from LPL, it's a disadvantage at this point because other teams were practicing Milio. Yes. There was a lot of different champions that were coming into the meta. Even though the meta, like the game is played the same, there's just different champions that you have to learn. Like you had to learn Nico, for example. That was not a champion that they're having any exposure to. The jungle meta is pretty similar, but there are like now options for like Rengar angles that there weren't before. The AD carry meta, like there's some inklings of Kog'Maw. Is that actually going to come back? And it felt like in the first series versus Weibo, JDG was still like, they were just unsure. They were having to ban Milio on blue side, where that's essentially a champion that you're first picking in a lot of situations because you can play it with long range AD carries, and you can also play it with, for example, Lucian, which is really strong. So I still think they're really good. And I think the underrated part about JDG is that even in metas, like people are always worried about, what happens with the carry top meta with 369? The thing about 369 is that he's really, really insane at playing the champions like Renekton, GP, Aatrox that are like the bruiser lane bullies into those hyper carry top laners. So if we end up in a meta where people are first picking Jax, 369 is one of like the best GPs. He's one of the best GPs in the world. He was actually playing it in Summer Split. He was playing in those insane best of fives versus top esports when it wasn't meta at all. And that's a champion that will perfectly fit their style. He can play weak side. He can still ult the other side of the map. He can play weak side in the carry top metas. He won't need resources because he understands laning to that degree. So I think they're a scary team. I mean, right now, Kanavi is just fucking running it in the games, and he did the same thing in spring. He just gets a pass, you know. He's played so well. I mean, he came off being the best jungler in the world in this last tournament. You just give him a pass. If he starts inting like in playoffs, maybe you're a little bit more worried. But early on in the regular season, maybe he took a break. Maybe he's just Wukonged out. He's played too many Wukong and Maokai games that he's just bored or something in the games. But until you see him into big moments, I just think he gets the pass. You know, you just let him ride it out, and you just expect that he'll be good when it matters.
The obvious joke is, to be fair, RNG did try to actually address the problem Dom's bringing up. They tried to just stay home and play MSI as well, you know, so whatever. We all know that way. Whatever. It's whatever.
Well, no, I mean, it was actually, I think it was unfortunate because I would have just loved to see the faces of the Korean fans if RNG was there to inevitably beat T1. Yeah. Oh, it would just like, you think it was quiet then? Imagine what it would have been if RNG is like lifting the trophy just in their faces and everything. Oh, like, man. I just thought it was so funny already because after T1 lost, the like confetti, like they're the only ones in the arena, and like the confetti is like dropping on them and shit. It's like, what the fuck? Like, they're gonna. Oh, all right, okay. I mean,
that's why I've always thought one thing that's sad is if people know the reference, way back when they had that All Stars, that was like the proto MSI, if you remember, where OMG was there. That was the one, if you remember, where that guy who was fucking what's his name, Alan, the one who was playing at the time, he was playing support, but he was famously a jungler for OMG. That was the one where he like BM'd and wouldn't like shake hands with some of the players when they beat him because he was like all salty they lost, right? And I've always wanted there to be a spicy Chinese player who just shit talks like T1. And the sad thing is, it almost happened. People know this story where there was an interview and the headline initially was like, it was just like Knight saying like, I consider Faker weak. And I was like, what the fuck? holy shit. But then it turned out it was like a mistranslation, and really just said like, something way less spicy, but like the guy just mistranslated like that. I want that to happen for real. Like I want someone to actually win Worlds and then just do like a diamond prox or something, just walk past Faker like, fuck you. Like, because you don't even, if you think they send trucks now and go mad, like that would almost be like an international political thing or something. Like, people have no idea the level of drama you could get to if something like that ever happened, especially to T1 or Faker.
I mean, I thought Knight was flaming because he did say that he was going to use Faker to stack his Magi's, but then he just like did it in game, so it was just honesty. Like you can't even flame him after that. It's like he just killed Faker. Like there, like Faker's in the Magi's. I see it right there. Also,
that is a great line as well. Yeah, I'm trying to use it to get my Magi's up. Sound. Go on, Jensen. What do you think on that? What do you think on this angle?
On trash talking players?
Yeah. Why is there? Do you think actually they get told, by the way, not to do it? Because obviously within the region, like in LPL, they'll trash talk. Like a motherfucker in LCK, they have those segments where you're allowed to do it. Is it the political angle, do you think, as to why they don't do it internationally? Because I've noticed they do actually tend to be fairly respectful.
I think not that the players probably aren't thinking of that. It's probably just thinking about what additional stress they're putting on themselves already. And already, but like when you're representing the LPL, you always see like Bin and these players go up. It's like, oh, we're here to restore the honor and glory to the LPL and stuff like that. If they were to then go out and trash talk the LCK teams and stuff like that, you're just even adding more pressure to yourself and your teammates as well. I think that this is something that you need a very special team of 5 people to be able to do that, and not just like one person like going out and it's like, yep, he's off the rails, and everybody is like, oh, nope, sorry, we play on the same team as him, but in this moment he stands alone, right? These sort of things don't really happen in Asia. So if someone is going to do that, you're not only going to need one player who has the balls to do it, but it has to be like a whole team who can get behind it, and it's okay with like, okay, we're going to race the 6 here and do an insane level and be okay with that, right?
I have one last topic, Dom, which goes like this. Since, like, I don't know how they broke you, but they broke you during MSI, and you actually said you had Chovy as the best player in the world, just the best player in the world. So what is the reason that makes him better than Knight for you?
So the way that I view Chovy, like, it's weird, right? Because I don't think that Chovy will perform the best. That's like not my argument for Chovy being the best player in the world. The way I try to articulate the way I think of Chovy is that if you were to come down and do like an analysis of every single part of League of Legends, you're like, this is laning phase, this is side laning, this is team fight vision, this is skill shot accuracy.
If you're doing like a Madden rating, basically, of all the different aspects.
If you looked at every single aspect of it, he would be like the highest overall.
Okay, I can see that.
All of those different stats. I just think that his clutch factor just isn't there.
He's a bit of a
and that's like one of the most. That's one of the most important things, like he doesn't have the ability to just win those games that really, really matter. So when I say he's the best player in the world, I think that he has like the best skill set in the world, but he's not able to use it when it matters a lot of the time. And just the way I feel like he needs to have more ego in a way. Like when I watch a bunch of the series, the ones that stick out the most to me out of all the series I've watched Chovy is that 2019, like Griffin versus IG, I believe, was the quarterfinals.
When they kept playing the tanks in that.
where he played tanks over and over again, right? It was that one where I'm like, dude, like you have to play carry, man. You have to just say, like, give me the fucking rock. Like, I'm going to carry this game. Like, I'm Chovy. I wanted to see that. And then in the series versus BLG, that's the other one that sticks out because it was the same thing of you're playing all the enablers. You played 2 games of Annie and 1 game of Lissandra.
Yes.
Like, you're Chovy, man. You're the one, like, how are you not first picking Ahri? Like, you're the best Ahri player in the world. That's your champion. And you're not picking Ahri in that game 3 after losing the first 2 games. Obviously, if the series is going well, you don't have to have a carry approach. But there's times where the shit hits the fan in the series and it's like, all right, you need to step up or you're going to lose. We saw the same thing in game 4 of semifinals at Worlds. See the same thing here where I feel like he just stays too far in the pocket. He needs to really like just believe more in himself. Like he is somebody who has the best skill set in the world, in my opinion.
I'll just throw this out there. I will say from watching players, this is a famous thing in Counter-Strike as well, is whenever players do that, like they should actually be the best player in the server, but they almost default to like playing almost like facilitator. I actually do think that goes hand in hand with if they have like nerve issues or they feel like they're under pressure or something. Because if you do that, Dom, you'll never actually get blamed by your team when you lose the game if you play like the crack. Oh, like the Galio's it's in the meta at the moment. Like it's the best way to sort of lose without looking bad, if you know what I mean. Whereas if you did score like first pick Jace and then you fucking just ran it down, you're going to look pretty bad there. Like you're going to get told you mega choked that one. So I think that's a legit factor when you say it like that. What about you, Jensen? Do you have preference between the two, Knight and Chovy? I'd see what Dom means with it. I've always thought like all the technical aspects of Chovy are genius. It's just the difference is, I mean, Knight didn't do it until this international tournament. I always thought he just does it, mate. He just carries the game.
I think Knight was underrated. I think his performances were really underrated by fans. Like people would say he was a choker for last Worlds, where it's like his bot lane is fucking running it, and his top lane is running it, and his jungler's running it. How the fuck is it his fault? Like he's mid lane up 20 CS in a matchup he's supposed to be 20 CS up in, and the whole fucking game is on fire. I don't know what Knight is supposed to do in those games. So I was really against the idea that Knight was a choker when that narrative started. But yeah, Jensen, you can answer the question. I just wanted to throw that in there.
I mean, you just brought the memories back of like before. I was like thinking, okay, Jackie Love, he wins these fights, he plays the fights really well, and they just had to remind me he's like playing Draven, walks up to the mid tier 1 and just dies and throws the game for no reason and stuff like that. And at the Worlds, right? So it's kind of funny to think of that. But I'm definitely in the Knight camp, and I've been there for quite some time now. I think Chovy is someone who if you're scoring things in a way that rewards the way that he plays, naturally he is going to look the best, right? Because it's very polarized. The way he TPs the side lane to pick up that additional wave for farm, the way that he tends to draw jungle support to help him in lane. I know that this year he has changed that playstyle quite a fair bit. He has adapted, and he's been playing a little bit differently, playing a little bit more to his enablers and things like that. But even like the Yone performances, even like 1 year back, 2 year back, he will pick the Yone, he'll go up 100 CS, and he'll still lose the game. And people who don't really understand what's going on, they would just think that he's being entered by his team. But I have to say that it's a little bit of it's the curse of playing like Chovy, where if you're gonna play in such a manner, your team has to. It's almost difficult to compare to say who is the better mid laner, because for me, I have a very clear stylistic preference, right? I don't like the way that Chovy plays in general, so it's harder for me to make a case to say that in my metric, in my view of the game, that he's is the best mid laner or the best player in the world.
Where I come from in England, people will often say, oh yeah, you and whose army? Well, I'll tell you what, I've got my own army backing me up. They're called the Illuminati. Thank you to Ahmed Hadjou, Joseph Adcock, Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, Theogony, Animosity, Bot Pounder 420, Jensen Goh, Tobias Bernasconi, Tosh, Thooorin, and as always, you know it, a special thanks goes out to my boy Jerky's Minion. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? You want teasers, find out who's in the upcoming interviews? Do you want to ask me a question in my monthly AMA? Maybe you want to be part of those long discussions where we talk about anything and everything in esports. Well, if so, put your money where your mouth is and enlist today in the Illuminati via the Patreon link in the box below.